All right, let's talk about Next.js. Now, if you've ever built anything with React, you're going to want to pay attention because Next.js is a framework that can be a total game changer for your workflow. And I mean, for the better. So let's dive right in and see how. Okay, so let's set the scene. You've poured your heart into building this awesome React app, but you're running into a couple of, well, huge roadblocks, right? First, it feels like your app is invisible to Google and social media. You share a link, and the preview is just blank. It's a huge hit to your visibility. And second, when a new user visits, it just hangs for a second too long before anything actually shows up on screen. Sound familiar? I bet it does.
So what's actually going on here? Well, the culprit is something called client-side rendering, or CSR. You see, with a typical React app, when you visit a page, the browser gets, well, almost nothing. It's just an empty HTML shell. Then it has to go fetch a whole bunch of JavaScript, download it, run it, and only then does it figure out what to actually show you. That whole process, that's what causes that painfully slow first contentful paint. And even worse, search engine bots often don't wait around. They see that empty page and just move on. And boom, your SEO takes a massive hit. But what if there was a way to solve both of these problems at the exact same time? Well, there is. And that's exactly what Next.js was built for. It's a framework that sits right on top of React, designed specifically to crush these issues. So here's the magic. The key difference with Next.js is that it pre-renders your content on a server. So instead of sending that empty shell to the browser, it sends a fully formed, complete HTML page right from the get-go. And what does that mean? It means your users see content instantly, and just as importantly, the search engine bots see that complete content too.
And this is what people mean when they say Next.js gives you the best of both worlds. On one hand, you get that pre-built HTML for super fast loading and perfect SEO. But here's the cool part. Once that static page loads in the browser, React kicks in and hydrates it. It's like the page comes to life, becoming a fully interactive, dynamic application, just like the React apps you already know and love.
Okay, so performance is obviously a huge win. But beyond that, one of the first things you're going to absolutely love about Next.js is how it handles routing and navigation. Seriously, it makes the whole development experience so much more intuitive. Let me show you what I mean.
Forget all those complex third-party routing libraries. With Next.js, it's so much simpler. You have a special folder called Pages, and whatever you put in there becomes a route. You want a page at /cars? Just create a cars folder. Need a dynamic page, like for a specific car model like /cars/Tesla? You just make a file with brackets in the name, like brackets ID.js. That's it. Your file system is your URL structure. It's that simple.
Yeah, this quote really just nails it. The file structure here mirrors the actual URLs that the user will navigate to. It's a one-to-one mapping. What you see in your folders is exactly what your users will type into their browser. And that direct connection makes building out your site and maintaining it later just unbelievably straightforward.
All right, routing is cool, but now we get to what is, in my opinion, the most powerful feature of Next.js, how it fetches data. This is where you really get to unleash its server-side superpowers. Okay, so the first strategy is called static generation, or SSG. The best way to think about this is like you're pre-baking your entire website. This all happens at build time. You know, that moment when you run a command to get your app ready for the world. At that point, Next.js goes out, fetches all the data for your pages, and builds them into plain old HTML files. These files are then ready to be served up almost instantly from anywhere in the world. And how do you do it? It's actually pretty straightforward. Inside your page component, you export a special function called getStaticProps. This is where you put your data fetching logic. Now, if you have a dynamic page, like our car example, you also need another function, getStaticPaths, to tell Next.js, hey, I need you to pre-build a page for a Tesla, a Ford, and a Honda. Then you just run the build command, and Next.js does all the heavy lifting for you.
Okay, but what about data that changes constantly? You can't just pre-bake a page that needs live information, right? Well, that's where the second strategy comes in, server-side rendering, or SSR. With this approach, the page is not generated at build time. Nope. Instead, it's generated on the server on demand for each and every request. A user visits your page and poof, the server builds it for them right then and there.
And the best part? The implementation is almost ridiculously simple. You literally just swap out that getStaticProps function for a different one called getServerSideProps. The code you write inside it to fetch data might be exactly the same, but the timing is completely different. It runs on every single request, not a build time, guaranteeing that your users always see the absolute latest data.
All right, so we've got two super powerful options here. SSG for pre-built, lightning-fast pages, and SSR for pages that are always fresh. So the big question is, how on earth do you decide which one to use? Let's break down the common use cases.
Here's the rule of thumb, and it's actually pretty simple. If your content doesn't change very often, go with static generation. This is your go-to for things like blogs, marketing pages, portfolios, anywhere that you want blazing fast performance. But if your data is changing all the time, think about an e-commerce site with live stock updates, a stock ticker, or a user's personal dashboard, then you absolutely want server-side rendering. That's how you make sure the data is fresh every single time.
But what if you need something that's kind of in the middle? Well, of course, Next.js has an answer for that too. It's called incremental static regeneration, or ISR. This is a game changer. It lets you have a super fast static site, but you can tell Next.js, hey, after 10 minutes, maybe go rebuild this page in the background with fresh data. So you get the speed of static with the benefit of periodic updates. It's truly a hybrid approach.
So let's just quickly recap what we've learned. First, Next.js is here to solve those huge SEO and performance headaches you get with standard React apps. Second, its file-based routing is just so simple and intuitive. Third, you've got SSG for when you need pure speed with static content, and SSR for when data has to be absolutely fresh. And maybe the most important takeaway of all, you don't have to choose just one. You can mix and match these strategies on a page-by-page basis, all within the same app.
So that brings me to a final question, just for you. As you think about your next project, or even your current ones, ask yourself, how could it benefit from pre-rendering? Which parts of your app could be faster, more reliable, and way more visible to search engines if they were built in advance? Seriously, thinking about this might just change how you build for the web from now on. Thanks for joining me.